If you guys haven't heard by now, yeah, this is the Nick Frazier Podcast, and you're getting the best genuine content out there. Right, fellas?
It's true. Agreed.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Nick Frazier Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Frazier, and we're on another joyride of this wonderful podcast. Ready to start another episode here. Kind of want to just get into some stuff that's happened recently. I'd probably say a little bit of some hockey playoffs happening. Obviously, the draft, the results. What do we all think? Let me know down below. Also, Nashville SC. We're going to hop into a little bit of that and a little bit of some meals with Meatball, as usual. So we're going to get right into it. Here we go. First thing I'm going to kind of start off with is a little hockey action. I'm not the biggest hockey guy, but I love watching it. I love keeping up with it. My two teams I'm kind of pulling for right now are the Florida Panthers. They're hot. They are hot right now. And obviously the Seattle Kraken as well. I think the matchup's going to be Edmonton versus Seattle, and then I believe Carolina and Florida. I think that's going to be the other matchup, in my opinion. That's what I'm predicting. So if you can, put a little cash on that if you want. But yeah, it's kind of what I want a little cover over. Obviously, Florida's kind of rolling with the high horse right now just because they got the hot hand. And I think currently as I'm recording this podcast, they were down 2-1. Now they're up 3-2 at the end of the second. So kind of crazy, and kind of know when I'm recording this episode. So just been real busy this week, and I had to push back a lot of stuff, and now We're rocking and rolling, ready to go with this little episode. I kind of want to get into a little bit of NFL. We're going to just ease right into that right now. The Tennessee Titans. I know. Let's take a deep breath before we start talking about them. What a draft it has been. What a draft it was. What do you all think about the Tennessee Titans draft? I have a lot of mixed feelings about it from what I've heard from people and my own personal thoughts of the draft. I thought the Titans did pretty well. For the most part, they addressed a few key pieces every now and then here in the draft. Obviously, the big talking point is the second-round pick that we traded up for. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the number one overall pick for the Titans at pick number 11 was Pete Skoronski out of Northwestern. That was the one pick that I was kind of rooting for all along. If you go back and listen to the episodes back in January of 2023 on the Nick Frazier Podcast, I believe it was the first one of 2023 with Alex and Trey, we kind of delved a little bit into the draft, what we were going to talk about, and my one pick that I was really sold on was Pete Skoronski. It was obviously, they said he was a tackle, but obviously he's a guard, in my opinion, just because of the hands. Everybody keeps talking about his hands. I'm sold that this guy's going to be really well in the NFL, just not only because of his physique, not only because he can play football, but up here, he's really smart. And I think, having the brains on the line, it really goes a long way. And it's interesting the trend that the Titans are going with, because if you look at the recent draft picks, obviously just in 1 year, but Nicholas Petit-Frere out of Ohio State, that is a Big Ten school. You look at Pete Skoronski, Northwestern, Big Ten school. Another guy they got in the sixth round, his name is Jalen Duncan out of Maryland, obviously, another Big Ten school. So there's 3 Big Ten guys within a 2-year span. Interesting trend we got going here. It just shows there's some good talent in the Big Ten. Just putting it out there. Not everything's about the SEC. Some may disagree, but hey, just putting it out there. Sorry. Looks like there's a bit of a spider web or some sort of spider crawling down, whatever. That's gone away. Yeah, so I was looking online, kind of trying to get a grasp of what everybody thought about the draft, and from what information I've gathered and looking at Pro Football Focus as well, they graded the Titans with an A- of a draft. It's interesting. It's polarizing, I guess, another way to put it, but interesting is a good, generalization to say about the Titans draft because, obviously the offensive line needs to be addressed. Yeah, they've addressed majority of that with free agent, signings and, promoting some players on the roster so far up to a starting position and then addressing it in the draft. So I feel like the Titans did pretty well with what they can do right now for the offensive line. So kind of pleased about that there. I'm going to skip the second round pick. We're going to get into it. Don't worry. Hold your britches. Third round pick I like a lot, actually. Tyjae Spears out of Tulane. Interesting pick, in my opinion. Obviously, the big talking point with him is that didn't have an ACL. People were very intrigued about the pick. But you know what? Looking at his little resume here of this previous season, he had 3 100-yard rushing games against ranked opponents, 9 100-plus yard rushing games for the season, and 1 200-plus yard rushing game, which was the last game of the season against USC in the Cotton Bowl, I believe. And he balled out. I believe he had 2 touchdowns, 205 yards rushing. I mean, he was all over the place. And that just goes to show you that, these small schools do have talent, but it's a little interesting to me because, if you look at some of his tape, and some of these guys, I looked at their, highlights online, some I didn't, whatever, but just couldn't get to it. But with Tyjae Spears, you could line him up in the slot. You could put him out wide a little bit in the backfield. You could kind of do whatever with him. He's kind of like an all-purpose back. And I think, looking at the Titans roster, Dontrell Hilliard previously this season, I think, in my opinion, he's gone. Or maybe out the door, just because this Tyjae Spears pick kind of transitions all that for you, I think, in my opinion. You also have Hassan Haskins out of Michigan that has been on the roster. It kind of reminds me a little bit, and I talked to Dexter McCluster about this when I had him on the podcast, or he kind of mentioned it a little bit, probably a year and a half ago. If you want to listen to it, it'll be linked somewhere, but it's a good listen. You should listen to it. But, he was talking about how Derrick Henry kind of, it was hard for him to kind of transition into the player he is. It's like, had a hard time kind of getting his feet wet in the NFL. And, he was one of those transitional backs. Dexter was when the Titans brought him in. And sure enough, the next season, Derrick kind of popped off. But he kind of, prefaced about that a little bit. So, in my opinion, that's kind of where I think the Titans are at right now. I feel like Hassan Haskins is in that Derrick Henry kind of esque situation when he first got into the league, where he's just kind of sitting back, retaining all the information, learning, and then, when Derrick's time is up with the Titans, if that is possibly later this season or next season or whatever it may be, Hassan will be ready. He'll be ready to take on that power back role. But also, you also have a guy like Tyjae Spears who can still tote the ball when you need him to. So he just has that more all-purpose style back, in my opinion, where you can kind of utilize him in the passing game, the run game, or wherever it may be. If it's possibly special teams, who knows? Maybe they have some tricks up their sleeve. I don't know. But I just thought that was an interesting pick, a solid pick, in my opinion. The only downfall that, I don't even know if this is really a downfall, but I don't know if they'll probably use him for this, but maybe pass blocking is not his forte. Always room for improvement, but from what I saw online and what people have posted, not a great pass blocker, but, he could probably prove people different. It's fine with me, but, yeah, so I like the Tyjae Spears pick. What else we got here? Oh, yeah, the guy out of Cincinnati, the tight end, Josh Wiley. Interesting pick. A lot of people were like, who? Who the hell is that? Yeah, no, he's got great stature. I believe he's 6'7". He had, I do know this. In his senior season this past year, or junior, I believe it was senior season, he had 326 yards receiving. Obviously not a lot from a tight end, but from what I saw online, what people have posted, this guy's a versatile style player. Like all these guys that Titans draft are pretty versatile. They are multifaceted in different ways. Josh Wiley, he can... kind of what Tyjae is. You can kind of put him out wide in the slot. You can line him up at the tight end position. You can be a pass catcher. From the times he did catch the ball, he looked pretty lethal out there. Like he was toting the ball and running it in the end zone. He only had 3 touchdowns on the season. So it's all about the scheme, in my opinion, with the Titans. You got guys like Chig, and now you got guys like Josh. And I don't know if this has any value to anybody, but Travis Kelce, he even said it. He's like, this dude's a dog. And the Titans posted about it saying he's a dog, Kelce quoting him. So take that for whatever it's worth to you guys. I'm just going to take that with a grain of salt. Just, not going to believe until I see it. But seems like a pretty interesting pick, a solid pick. Has a lot of room for improvement. All of these guys do. They're all rookies. But overall, from what I've listed off so far, it seems pretty good. Next is obviously the 6th round pick out of Maryland that I already talked about a little bit, but Jalen Duncan, a guy I didn't really get to look at much on his film. A lot of these 6th and 7th round guys, I didn't have much research about them. Anyways, Jalen Duncan out of Maryland, interesting pick. I feel like that's more depth, in my opinion, just because you're getting a guy on a rookie deal, late rounder, so inexpensive and a solid guy. And again, like I said before, a Big Ten guy, knows Nicholas Petit-Frere, knows Pete Skoronski. I think he mentioned in one of his little pressers that him and Pete were actually practicing a little bit before the draft together, training. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit there. But yeah. So carrying on to the last round of the draft, the Titans picked in the seventh round, little offensive firepower. All these guys are offensive guys, so a little concerning, a little not concerning. But Colton Dowell out of UT Martin, a local product, out of a small school in Tennessee. But wide receiver. He had 1,000 yards this past season at UT Martin, averaged 15.6 receiving yards, and had 6 touchdowns on the year. A 1,000-yard receiving year is not too shabby. To the years before that wasn't near close to that. I think he had like a 630-yard receiving year, I think the year before. So obviously each year it progressed to get better, and that's always good. You always like to see signs of improvement and progression. So that could be a sneaky little 7th-round steal there. Obviously, with the Titans and the wide receiver core, it's just kind of dull. Some people may say it's just not good enough. Obviously, the Titans are, in my opinion, now are in a rebuilding stage. Maybe they're able to reload and lock and load pretty quick. But you have guys like Kyle Phillips, who just had a nagging injury his rookie year. Couldn't really, get his body healthy. So I still have faith in him being a solid slot receiver, a little short, quick route kind of guy. Traylon Burks got injured a little bit, got a concussion. The guy was stiffed up when he caught his first NFL touchdown. So, can't really knock him there. I do think he has that huge upside, and I still think he's proved himself for the most part. There's still room for growth, whatever, improvement. Nick Westbrook-Akine, I think I'm pronouncing that right, yeah. Another solid key piece there for wide receiver. But, you got guys like Colton Dowell. Hopefully he pans out, and a lot of these guys will make it through, OTAs and training camp and make the roster and all that. So we'll see. But overall, Pro Football Focus grading them at A-. Oh, I'm also forgetting one dude that I said I was going to get to. 2nd-round pick, Will Levis. The biggest talking point of the whole draft, not only for the Titans' sake, but the whole NFL. You look at the 2nd overall pick with Houston. Houston said, they're going to go for a quarterback. They're going for a quarterback. They're not really interested in C.J. Stroud. Well, that was the biggest smokescreen I've ever seen in my life. I think the national media has kind of hyped up Will Levis to the point where people are like, they're not going to go after C.J. Stroud. Obviously, the S2 test, nobody's going to pick him, whatever. Nope, psych. Hang on, wait a minute. Hold the phones. Stop the car. C.J. Stroud landed up in Houston, and then right after that, Houston traded up to the 3rd overall pick and got Will Anderson. So that was a very interesting pick there. Just not interesting. Like, I understand why they picked it, but also trading up for that is just crazy. But, Houston's reloading. Jacksonville's going to look solid. And even the Colts signing Anthony Richardson to the draft, drafting Anthony Richardson. So that's another project. So, all 3 of those guys are young QBs in 3 franchises in the AFC South. So we'll see what happens there. For the Titans' sake, with Will Levis, I'm not going to trash the guy. I feel like you got to give the guy a chance. I feel like that's one thing people keep losing sight of, is you have to give people a chance. People are a little upset about it. I get it. But I think this guy, just give him a little chance. I think he actually has some upside here. One thing that is concerning, and a lot of people have already touched on this, is the interceptions. The choice of passes. See, this past year he had 10 interceptions. The year before that he had 12. And then the year before that, in his freshman year, he didn't have a lot of stats to really, take into consideration there. Like, I think it was less than, 3 touchdowns or something like that. So, like, his junior, senior year, like, really kind of, you're able to get a true sample size. But yet, around 2,400 yards passing, around 2,500 yards passing the year before that. So, like, those are kind of, you're still getting the same value from what you're getting the year before. A lot of people are like, that team was a little bit different the year before that. And I was like, but he's still the same quarterback. So, like I said, I'm going to give the kid a chance. My opinion doesn't mean nothing to what other people may say, but, let's see what he's got. I'm intrigued to see what the quarterback room is going to look like now with Malik Willis and Will Levis and Tannehill. I have a feeling he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. It's just adding more fuel to the fire for him. And, if Will Levis is the guy of the future, so be it. And he said it in his pressers already. He wants to learn. He just wants to learn. And like, to me, that just gives me a little reassurance that maybe the Titans did get a guy that just wants to learn. Yeah, he talked a little bit about his decision-making. That was something that was a little reassuring to me as well. He talked about why he made some of his decision-makings and, you can go look it up online for, the Will Levis presser with the Titans, and it tells a lot. And so for me, I just thought out of what I got out of it, it was just reassuring and comfortable to know. But yeah, overall with the Titans, I mean, what do you guys think about the Titans draft? Let me know down below in the comments on YouTube or Instagram when I post this stuff, whatever. Let me know. I just want to know what you guys have to think about it. More conversation, the better. Just want to get more of people's opinions. So let me know down below. Put it down there. And, going from one two-tone blue to the other, it's a little off topic, but transitioning over to soccer. The day of the recording of this is May the 4th. So a lot of Star Wars people out there, but that has nothing to do with what I'm about to talk about. From one two-tone blue to the other with soccer. Obviously, everybody knows my Italian, connection with soccer and just heritage, whatever. But Napoli, they're a Serie A side in Italy. They have won the Serie A Scudetto for the first time in 33 years. The last time it was won was with Diego Maradona, and Diego Maradona is no longer alive. So it's just interesting how that is, transpired. People keep saying it's the Maradona year because Argentina won the 2022 World Cup, and then following that same, scheduled year with soccer was the domestic leagues and all the above. So Maradona, after he left Barcelona, went to Napoli, and in 1986-87 season, Napoli won the Scudetto, which he was on that team. And that same year, in 86, Argentina won the World Cup. So it's crazy how that has happened. In 33-year span, Napoli and Argentina both won their respective cups, and then in 2023, boom, they won their cup this year. So congrats to Napoli. I just wanted to just put that little tidbit in there. It's just, a piece of history that a lot of people probably don't realize, but it's pretty neat. A lot of people don't realize what Maradona did for the game. Transitioned into be something more eye-catching, more wanting to watch. And a lot of people have that, two-man head of like Pele, Maradona, Pele, whatever. Pele's even said that Maradona was better than him, but, it's just more of like the humbling of back and forth. But yeah, now it's the Messi-Ronaldo debate, and I think, that's just for this era. That was for that era, and I feel like that debate's over with now. So now it's Mbappe's the top dog, whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to just throw it in there. It was real interesting. But to get it more localized soccer, more of the stuff of the bread and butter in this area, talk a little Nashville SC. Nashville SC recently came off a huge win against Atlanta United. We all know this little small rivalry. I think it's like the Showdown of the South is what they call it, and the winner gets like a belt of some degree. And it was a cool experience to witness from the press box, from being on the field, whatever. It was a pretty cool experience. 3 goals, 3-1. First goal, I believe, was from Fafa Picoult. I think I pronounced that right. Just call him Fafa. Second goal was from Teal Bunbury. And then the third one was Jacob Schaffelberg in the 90th minute plus of injury time. So it was a very action-packed game. Stats may say differently. It was very chippy. Total 23 fouls. Back-and-forth type game. Possession was 34 to Nashville and 66 to Atlanta United. Thiago Almada, he's an 18-year-old youngster from Argentina. World Cup winner. Didn't play much in the World Cup, but guy has a huge upside, a brilliant future for him. Played against Nashville SC this past weekend and scored a penalty kick from the spot. So a great match overall. Like I said, back and forth, chippy. Stats really don't show that Nashville won by a huge margin, obviously, but if you look at the offsides, Nashville had 6, and it just shows that they were really counterattacking effective, if that makes sense. They were more, centralized on the counterattack, and they spread the ball out nice in the attacking third. Hany kind of dropped in a little bit when it got to the offensive side, and he started, fading out to the left a little bit, spreading out the game of play. I just thought it was real interesting. Fafa is really good up top. He's able to attack the ball strong. Always that little pressure on the defenseman that has the ball. Nashville did really well overall. They played well. I don't care what the stat sheet says. They played well. So with the pace of play of Jacob and Fafa, does it make your job easier to your own degree of seeing the game better?
Yeah, of course. For a player who wants to primarily gets the ball in the feet, it's always good to have other players who wants to go deep, because then the fullback has to drop and I get a little space. I think we saw that with the third goal. I know I have to go deep too. You know, that's how you spread out the defense. And I scored tons of goals like that. We have to keep doing it, everyone, and then we will be successful.
They have a challenge this upcoming weekend against Chicago. Chicago is coming to Nashville, so it'll be another home game. If you want to come out to it, I highly encourage it. They're awesome. The atmosphere is phenomenal. You may see me there. If you do, give me a little wave, say hey. I'm not shy to say hi at all. I love seeing people that, interact with not only the podcast, but in person. So highly recommend coming on out to Geodis Park. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an interesting matchup because Nashville should win this game. Nashville's starting to go on a little bit of a run. They're getting results. They're getting points. They just still struggling with that injury bug a little bit. But I think we're going to start seeing some new names. You might see a guy by the name of Lucas McNaughton from Toronto FC. I talked about him previously on last episode's podcast, I believe. But he's 6'2", wins a lot of duels, wins a lot of balls in the air. He's solid in the back. One-on-ones when there's a attacker from the other team, from the other team attacking. He does pretty well one-on-one by himself. So, as long as there's a solid center back and not Daniel Lovitz at center back alongside Jack Mayer, I just feel like Jack being so young, he plays better when you have somebody that has experience in the back, for example, like Walker Zimmerman. Because when Walker came out that one time against LAFC in the second half, the chemistry didn't seem like it was there. Just discombobulation, organization wasn't really all there. But with Walker back this past weekend and they won 3-1. I feel like if Lucas McNaughton is back there as well, I feel like, there's going to be a little bit of chemistry that's disconnect that eventually will start coming together as the games progress, as he gets more play time under the Gary Smith team. But this should be a really good matchup against Chicago. I think Nashville should win this game. If I had to put a number on it, maybe 2-0, 2-1. I'm kind of hoping for Joe Willis to get another clean sheet. It would add another one to his name this year. I believe it'd put him at 6. So 6 out of 10 games would be pretty freaking awesome. 6 out of 11 games, something like that. So, he's having an impeccable year. So, that's kind of what I got for Nashville SC. Next we have is Meals with Meatball. Yes. Meals with Meatball, everybody's favorite. A little bit of some, hey, how you doing with the culture? A little bit of some pasta, a little bit of this, that. I didn't have any pasta, any Italian food this past weekend, for the most part, from what I know. But anyways, what I kind of want to talk about is the Nashville Nasties, Tennessee Tasties as usual. Yeah, people are probably going to give me a little flack for this, but bagels. I love bagels. Don't get me wrong. Love bagels. Put a little cream cheese on it. Totally fine with it. But what I've seen recently is, obviously this is probably more of a northern thing, but people will put like cheese, egg, bacon, sausage, whatever. They'll make a breakfast sandwich out of the bagel. It's like a poppy seed bagel or whatever it is, and they'll use it as like sandwich bread. So like, here's my thing. I'm cool with it. I'm all cool for it. If you want to do it, fine. I'm a person, let me put it this way. When you eat a burger and it's a brioche bun, and the brioche bun has that hard glaze on top and it looks fancy, you take a picture of it, oh man, looks great. Here's my problem. When you bite into it, it doesn't taste like bread. It's like a weird, I don't want to say a waxy taste, it's more like a plasticky-ish taste, whatever. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan. Like, if I have to eat the brioche bun, I'm cool with it. So, like, with these breakfast sandwiches with bagels, that's kind of what it reminds me of. These bagels kind of have that little, like, glaze on top of it. And you bite into it, and it's just like, there's this much bread. And then there's, like, this much, like, egg, cheese, bacon, whatever. Like, this much. So you have this much bread, and then you have this much of, like, your actual proteins and stuff. Like, come on. Okay, come on. Like, if you're going to do that, at least cut out, like, half of the top and half of the bottom of the bagel and repurpose it for something else. That's just me. I mean, hey, I could be completely wrong. Judge me for all I care. I don't care. But that's my Nashville nasty. It's not really nasty. It's just more of an inconvenience when I eat, or if I were to eat something like that. I've seen it recently. Again, don't knock it till you try it. So I guess I have tried it before. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know. I'm indifferent about it, but I'm on the not so great side of this indifference. So, yeah. Whatever you guys think about bagels, let me know down below. Again, not a big fan of this breakfast bagel sandwich. If anything, give me the nice biscuit, a solid biscuit from McDonald's, wherever, whoever serves the breakfast biscuits, give them to me. Hey, I could go to Loveless Cafe and get me some egg, cheese, bacon, whatever on a plate, order some biscuits, put it together. Hey, now we got a little breakfast going, a little breakfast sandwich. Now, give me the breakfast biscuit with all that stuff in it. We're good. That's a little tasty action. But yeah, that is my Nashville Nasty this week. Tell me what your Nashville Nasty is. What is your Nashville Nasty for each week, whatever? I want to know. It makes me have a little bit better grasp of what people like and dislike, okay? Next is the Tennessee Tasty. Recently I've been kind of going out and about, going to the games, eating all the other stuff, whatever. But this past week, I didn't have anything out of the ordinary. It was barbecue. I had Edley's Barbecue. If you haven't been, highly recommend it. There are other good barbecue places around Nashville. But also, if you go to Edley's Barbecue, get the burnt ends with the bedded cheesy grits, and that's it. And you get the side of the cornbread. You won't regret it. I promise you. You won't regret it. If you're not a grits person, trust me, it doesn't taste like grits. I don't know how to really explain what it does taste like. But cheesy grits kind of taste like mac and cheese, but in like a potato-y form, if you want it, like cheesy potatoes. You can do it that way. But I highly recommend dining in because they serve it on a metal platter, like plate. It's a lot better eating it that way than it is getting it for takeout and then getting it in the small, styrofoam containers and having to put it on a plate, whatever. It's just something about the flavor profile when it's put on the metal little dish and you eat it in the place. There's something about it. I don't know what it is. To me, you could call me weird. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at with this. I feel like that's the way to eat it. So yeah, Edley's Barbecue, the burnt ends with the bedded cheesy grits and the side of cornbread. Can't go wrong. That is my Tennessee Tasty for the week. Again, let me know down below what your Tennessee Tasty is, and if I like it, I'll share it on the podcast. So yeah, thank you guys for that. And lastly, a little honorable mention on the Tennessee Tasty segment here. Recently, might have been today, might have been yesterday, whatever. I had a little breakfast action. Made 2 sunny side up eggs, and I got a little Sperry steak seasoning. Dash it on top of there, let it cook, whatever. Put it on the plate. Then I put a little dollop of salsa, a little Mexican salsa. Put a little dollop on there. Fire. Unbelievable. I feel like that was the most flavor I've had, and I guess you could call it healthy. I didn't put a healthy, amount of seasoning, and it was delicious. It was top-notch food. I think after a workout, when you eat something like that, anything tastes good. So, but yeah, that's the honorable mention. And then here's the very, very last thing I'm going to say. Pickleball. Hey, I know this is way off topic. Sure, probably talked about it beforehand on the intro, but pickleball. I've been playing pickleball for probably the last 7-8 months, maybe close to a year, with my brother. We kind of, and my mom when she wants to play pickleball every now and then. But yeah, we'll play pickleball every time we have the chance on a Sunday or something. Played recently with a previous guest on the podcast, Nick Frazier. He was on the podcast. Probably has the best pick on the NFP picks on the podcast, picking the Jags money line way back in the day, at home. But pickleball, absolute fun. You don't got to be really good at sports to play pickleball. You can just play it for fun, leisure, whatever. But I've been watching some videos. The skill is starting to come into pickleball a little bit. But yeah, Belante and I, we ran doubles and played pickleball this past weekend. Played my brother and his buddy. Ran it up 6-7-0 in the series. We were just torching them. Not saying they're bad pickleballers. They're really good pickleballers. So let's put it that way. Not top-notch pickleball for any of us that were playing, but we had a lot of fun. If you guys haven't tried pickleball out, highly recommend it. It's a growing sport right now. It's just all over the place. It's like burning like a wildfire. But yeah, highly recommend pickleball. Again, everybody, thank you for joining in on the Nick Frazier Podcast, listening, watching, whatever. You can go find the Nick Frazier Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, whatever other streaming platform you like to listen to. And also, you can now watch on YouTube, which has been the thing for a while. Go watch on YouTube, type in the Nick Frazier Podcast or whatever. Yeah, highly recommend you guys all subscribe, like, share with a few friends. If you share with 2 people, I greatly appreciate it. 2-3 people at a time, that would be awesome. Again, you can watch it, listen, whatever. Go follow the Nick Frazier Podcast on Instagram at the Nick Frazier Podcast for exclusive content in between episodes where you can check out some cool stuff that I post. And yeah, just want to say greatly appreciate everybody for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.